Hello fellow pilots, the people have spoken and the Mastiff has been chosen, so let's have a look at one of the more interesting weapons in the Titanfall universe. The Mastiff is a shotgun, but it has a completely horizontal spread pattern. This combined with its slow fire rate and seemingly inconsistent damage can make it feel a bit difficult to use. Even though it is not a top tier weapon, the Mastiff is still exceptionally fun to use when it all comes together. I must admit that when I first went in to make this video, I was terrible with the Mastiff. I hadn't actually used it in ages, but after a few games, it all came flooding back. And once I was reacclimatized to the fire rate and to the projectile travel speed, I was having an absolute blast. So how exactly does this weapon work, and how is it best put to use? Well, the Mastiff is a projectile weapon, meaning you will have to lead your shots at anything longer than point blank range. The Mastiff fires 8 distinct bolts when you pull the trigger. These bolts travel at a speed of 57 meters per second, which is exactly the same as the Mozambique sidearm. The bolts will spread out horizontally from each other the further they travel, which is an interesting twist on the shotgun archetype. The bolts have a very slight amount of gravity, so at really long ranges you will be able to notice a slight drop in bolt elevation, but this is really not enough to change how you use the gun or even aim higher than normal. The Mastiff holds 4 shots in its magazine, with an additional 2 shots with the extended mag perk. The weapon must be reloaded round by round instead of reloading the entire magazine in one animation, but we will cover the reload in greater detail later in the video. For now, we will investigate the 3 elements that combine to really create the core of the gun: its damage, range, and spread. First, let's look at damage and range falloff with some graphs, because I just love graphs so much. In this video, the x-axis along the bottom of the graph right there will represent the range from the target in meters. This graph shows the damage of a single bolt fired by the Mastiff at various ranges. The most important thing we can learn from this is that the Mastiff will start to lose damage at just over 10 meters, and you will not be able to land any headshot damage at all after 20 meters. Just before 70 meters, the Mastiff bolts will fizzle out, and you will not be able to damage any targets further away than that point. Of course, it will require multiple bolts to kill an enemy pilot of 100 health, and this next graph describes the number of bolts required at any given range. At close range up to 10 meters, you can land 4 headshots, or 5 bolts to the body, and secure a kill. But by the time that you are 20 meters away, that sharp damage falloff has kicked in and you will need 9 bolts. This is a problem, because the Mastiff only fires 8, you will need a second shot to secure the kill. Now the truth of the matter is that because of the spread of the Mastiff, you will be unlikely to hit a target with all 8 bolts in the shot. This image shows how the spread pattern works at various ranges. On the left, we can see the spread pattern when hip firing, and on the right, we can see the spread pattern while aiming down sights. Notice that the right hand side bolts are clustered much closer together, meaning that aiming down sights will allow you to land more shots on your target, just like the Mozambique shotgun pistol. We gave this some rigorous testing to see how many shots you could expect to land when firing at specific ranges. This assumes that you place the crosshairs exactly in the middle of your target. Here we can see that there is a steady drop in the number of shots you can land when hip firing, beginning at 5 meters, and by 50 meters, you can only expect to land 1 bolt each time you pull the trigger. When you aim down sights, however, you can expect to hit with far more of these bolts, and this is particularly pronounced at long range, where you will be able to deal much more damage, hitting 4 shots on a target out to 50 meters. Now that we know the exact number of bolts that we need to use to kill an enemy across the weapon's range curve, and we also know how many bolts are likely to strike home per shot at a given range, then we can calculate the amount of shots it will take to kill an enemy at any of these ranges. 1 trigger pull will suffice up to 10 meters, but after that you will need a headshot to kill a pilot in a single hit reliably. By 20 meters, headshots no longer apply, and by 25 meters, 3 shots will be required to down a pilot. This continues to increase as you get further away, until you might as well be throwing pebbles. However, if you aim down sights, we can see a very different story. A single pull of the trigger can be lethal up to 20 meters away, and after that, it will take 2 until 40 meters, which gives you a chance against many other weapons if you can lead your shots well. Albeit, you will still be at a somewhat of a disadvantage, because hey, it's a shotgun. Even up to 50 meters, you can still do meaningful damage. This will not be enough to win any straight up fights, but it may be enough to pick off a fleeing opponent or help out a teammate. So, I'm sorry about the graphs, that was a lot of graphs, and I did warn you I like graphs, but now we know the effective range of the Mastiff shotgun. It is essentially 20 meters, and that is the range within which you have a chance to one-shot enemies. If you are much closer than 20 meters, there is little need to aim down sights, and if you are beyond this distance, aiming down sights is really important to deal much damage at all. But how does this gun fare against Titans? Well, to be honest, not very well. Many other pilot weapons receive a significant damage increase when critting against Titans to help get that damage through, but the Mastiff will hardly deal any more damage at all, only 33 Titan damage per bolt that lands on the crit spot. And before I forget, I should also mention the Mastiff's fire rate, which is 1.3 shots per second, slightly faster than the EPG. Let's now have a look at the aim assist on this gun. This section is getting pretty standard. With the aim assist, it'll pull your reticule towards enemy hitboxes up to 42 meters away, but only if you are in motion. If you choose to aim down sights, the aim assist will apply to far beyond the maximum range of the weapon. Given that the Mastiff is projectile and the shots have travel time, aim assist will not be of much help unless you are right in the enemy's face, and if you're on PC, you probably won't even have aim assist at all. We are almost through with this weapon's specifications, so let's look at the reload and aim down sights animations. When you reload the Mastiff, it will load each bullet or shell one by one. This means that the overall reload speed for the entire clip is quite lengthy. However, you are able to interrupt the reload at any time to fire a shot if you need to, which is a really nice bonus. You can do this as long as you have at least one round sitting in the chamber ready to go. Each round you place into the gun will take 1 second to insert, however this can be interrupted as mentioned. If you do choose to completely empty the magazine before you begin the reload sequence, it will cost you an additional 2.2 seconds to place in that first round in the mag. With this in mind, you want to top up the gun whenever you can, even while on the run or near an enemy, because if you do need to shoot, the reload animation will not stop you. It's one of the strengths of this gun. With the speed reload perk, you can actually decrease the time per round to reload to 0.72 seconds, and the extra time when completely emptying the clip is decreased to only 1.5 seconds. This makes the gun feel really snappy, and it's definitely one of my top perks to use with the Mastiff. The aim down sights animation of this gun is also important, because remember that when you sight in with the weapon, you can greatly reduce its projectile spread. The standard ADS speed of the Mastiff is 0.25 seconds, and this is halved to a nifty 0.12 seconds when you're using the quick aim perk. It should also be noted before we move on that the Mastiff has a very quick ready time when you try to fire while sprinting, on par with most assault rifles, but not quite as fast as those SMGs. The weapon has a slow enough fire rate and little enough recoil that when you fire, the crosshair will completely center again before you can fire the next shot, so you don't have to worry about accounting for recoil in that regard. With all that in mind, I'm about to move on to the next phase of this video and discuss some tactics and loadouts. But before I do, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel if you want to see more of these videos from us here at 4FS Gaming, and why not hit that thumbs up while you're at it. Now, where were we? The tactics. Remember that what follows is just my opinion, and if you have a different opinion, please let us know in the comments. The Mastiff is effective up to 20 meters. Beyond that, you will almost certainly need a second shot, and this makes its time to kill worryingly slow. This does not mean that it is a complete waste to shoot at longer ranges. If you can accurately predict enemy movement, the Mastiff can finish off wounded enemies at least up to 40 meters away, especially when aiming down those sights. Now this shotgun is by no means a top tier weapon, mainly because it's so unreliable. Due to the spread of the bolts, you can get unlucky and only hit a portion of what you should be able to hit at a given range. This means that you should always be ready to take a follow-up shot or to finish up an enemy with a sidearm, even if you think that your first shot should be a guaranteed kill. Sometimes it doesn't quite take out the enemy pilot and you have to resort to other methods. The spread of the Mastiff also makes it suitable for gunning down mobs of grunts and spectres at medium ranges, but any enemy heavier than them will become pretty resistant to this gun, like stalkers, reapers and titans, which is why I do not recommend taking it into frontier defense on those higher difficulties, especially as it does very limited damage against large titans. To make the most of this gun, you need a build that you can get in close and personal with the enemy. Stim and grapple are the obvious choices, but phase shift and cloak also work reasonably well with this weapon. It is a lot easier to hit enemies if you are on the same level of elevation as them, simply because the hitbox will be bigger from this perspective. So unlike the EPG or most SMGs, you do not necessarily want to be above your enemies all the time, and you certainly don't want to be under them. Staying on their level when you attack, and then using changes in elevation to evade is probably the way to go. Speaking of elevation change, I find myself sliding a lot more when I use this gun, probably because it just feels really cool to duck down past someone and then take their head off with a shotgun blast at close range. Now when you go to choose a sidearm to pair with the Mastiff, I would probably avoid the auto pistol and the Mozambique, as they do not really add anything to your build that the Mastiff itself can't already fulfill. If you do want to be effective at long ranges, you will want to take that Wingman Elite. Frag grenades can also increase your lethality at mid-range, and arc grenades will make it much easier to hit targets if they get beyond your 20-meter sweet spot. Fire stars are another good choice because they will give you a strong, viable anti-Titan weapon in addition to your actual anti-Titan weapon. Your ordnance is really up to your playstyle in this instance, although I must add that the Gravity Star interacts in a really cool, if not that useful manner with Mastiff bolts, so definitely go and try that out too. The visual effects are pretty stunning. So that pretty much brings us to the end of this video, and I certainly hope that it was helpful. Now I will put up a poll in the top right hand corner of this video to decide what weapon we'll look at next, and if the gun you want isn't there, please shout it out along with any other Mastiff tips or feedback in the comments section below. This is Ascendance from 4FS Gaming, and I hope to see some more off-meta Mastiff users in the weeks to come.